Hello, everyone. My name is Mei-Ying, and I am the King's Business Club Keynote Project Coordinator. This event has been specifically created for our students who are in the early stages of career development. You can find our future webinars on the KBC YouTube channel, and also look out for your King's Business Review and your monthly newsletter. We are very excited to announce the beginning of our Keynote speaker series. For our first special online event, we are honoured to be hosting Sophia Petrides and Ronel Lehmann. In today's webinar, our panelists will share their expert knowledge on how to become more employable, especially in the face of setbacks. They will also offer advice about the steps they took that helped them succeed. Please remember to make use of the Q&A feature in this keynote. You can submit questions throughout the discussion for the speakers to address during the question time. Now, I will let our speakers introduce themselves. So, Sophia, let's start with you.
Great. It was lovely to be here with everyone. So my name is Sophia Petrides, and my role is I'm an international life coach, and I specialize in careers and executive leadership coaching. I'm based in London, but I have clients globally. And I'm the author of the published book called Bedside Coaching, 7 Lessons of Empowerment.
Thank you, Sophia. And Ronel?
I'm Ronel Lehmann. I'm the founder and chief executive of Finito. We help young people who leave school, college, and university to get work ready. This is an important time, and you're speaking to one of a team of employability experts who are here to help you.
Thank you both. So can you tell us a bit more about employability and resilience? So let's start with you, Ronel. Would you mind sharing some of your experiences and your expert knowledge on how to become more employable, potentially what it's like to start your own company, and what advice do you have for those entering the job market now?
Well, we are in uncharted times, and it's worrying, and I feel for all of you who are worried. But the thing is, we have to remember that there are people who came to this country with nothing and have made a success of their lives. And if you focus on what is good, what is possible, you can succeed. And everybody gets rejected sometimes in life, whether it's applying for jobs, getting to a short list, not getting through and being offered the position. Perhaps you've got peer pressure from your colleagues who are doing better than you. Maybe you have a parent or parents who are very overbearing and say it's time you do a master's or a doctorate, or never leave education because you're postponing that moment when you actually go out into the world and work. And of course, the opportunity right now, there are no greater risks now to starting a business. In fact, you could argue that right now is the best time to start a business. Why worry about failure? You know, there's an opportunity, and any one of us could start a business immediately. Look at the technologies that we have. So I think there's a moment to think about opportunity and what's possible. And if it's tough, use the difficulty.
No, I completely agree. It's about framing things to turn them into opportunities. So that's really, thank you, Ronel. So Sophia, in your book, this wonderful book here, which I have read, it was very, very good. You mentioned resilience and how you overcame a lot of setbacks through goal setting and changing your perspective, linking on from Ronel. I was wondering if you could define resilience and potentially share some more tips and insight onto your journey and how you overcame those.
Wonderful. Well, resilience, first of all, is the ability for us to recover quickly from a situation. So being mentally resilient means that we are in the conscious state of mind to be able to control our emotions at that point when we feel something's happening into our lives. We recover quickly, and then it helps us to analyze the situation and find a solution. So it's vital of us to keep working on our resilience. So a couple of tips to share with you how to become obviously resilient. I've had, all my life, I had a great support system. I had amazing mentors, and I know, Mei-Ying, we're going to talk about mentorship later on and throughout the interview here today. But one of the important aspects I would suggest you put in place is a strong support system. And it's incredible because you guys already are a small community within your, within your members club. So utilize this, create small pods, perhaps, groups of 4 people, check on each other every week, see where you are, ask the question, how can you help each other? Is there anyone who's struggling? There's so much going on right now in the world and so much instability. It does make us naturally anxious. Even if we have been in the industry for so long, it's very easy to feel stress and anxiety, but it's how we recover is what matters. So putting in place that pod really helps you a lot, but also share accomplishments every week, share how you've achieved your goals, show empathy, amongst yourselves. And from that, you create a small toolbox that you can tap into it when you need it with all these creative ideas that you share every week. So that's quite an important tool for you guys to really put in place. The other piece that we discussed, Mei-Ying, is about meditation, visualization, meditation, and breathing. One of the things that we do, and I do it naturally myself, we forget to breathe. And breathing is a really important aspect to try and get us more in control of what's going on around us. And with meditation, of course, it calms your mind. It makes you focused. And also, it shifts. You can shift your direction of your negative thinking at that point as well. So it's vital that you actually follow your meditation. Now, by the way, on Instagram, I share a lot of tools about meditation. So, and I know Mei-Ying, they will upload my Instagram page, and I do live chats as well there. So do follow that because they're quite interesting tips. Plus, I have them in my book as well. The other piece to share is changing your habit. Shifting that negative thought that comes into your mind, and try and think at that moment something positive. It could be your favorite holiday. So when that emotion comes into your mind, shift it quickly. Stop what you're doing, get yourself away from that environment, and then start thinking those positive thoughts, and then it will help you to become happier. Your endorphins kick in, and then naturally you become happy, and then go back to your project. But it's important for you to know when to stop. And another piece that I think people forget is our nutrition. Now, I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't share any tips of what to eat, but all I can say is, look after your gut. Your gut is actually our second brain. People don't know this. So sometimes when you're not eating the right, perhaps you're eating too much sugar, especially before your exams. I know that my nieces, and they're all overdosed on sugar, caffeine. Now, that can actually disturb your focus sometimes. It helps you, then you can't sleep. Then you don't wake up refreshed. So keep that in mind, keep yourself hydrated and eat the right food. Last but not least is goal setting. When you're creating goals, you're actually creating a positive mindset, because then it gets you out of bed. You have to really push yourself to achieve something. And the more you achieve, the more confident you become, the more resilient you become. So it's vital for you to it's good for you to start thinking now. Some of you may not know what you want to achieve in the future, but I'm going to give you 2 questions to take with you now and put them in front of you. So you can look at these 2 questions every day and keep asking yourself, what is your long-term vision in life? And how is this going to impact everyone positively? Now, I've always been taught there's no I in we. Always think about we, because at the moment, the way, the world is gearing away, it's so much going on. So always think about the bigger picture there. How can you support your community? How can you support each other in what you're doing within your vision? And within that question comes another question. What questions should you ask yourself every day to get closer to that goal? And that's it. And keep practicing it. But any questions like that, you can always DM me anytime or go through Mei-Ying and ask me any questions or any concerns you may have.
No, thank you, Sophia. Now that you've asked us to ask ourselves some questions, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to ask you some questions. So after reading your book and researching Finito, I have come up with a few, and we've also received a few already from our Instagram DM. So I thought we'll start with those to give the live viewer questions some time to come in. But so, Sophia, as a coach and expert yourself, you get a nod to mentors and friendships in your book acknowledgement. How did you meet your first mentor, and how have they helped you through challenging times?
I've been really fortunate to have very, very strong mentors in my life. And especially when I first started my career at the Savoy in 1988, and I was 19 years old, I didn't have a clue about life. You know, it was quite interesting. I went there, literally, I was so hungry to learn, but I had a very strong mentor, and she actually challenged me. That's how I've learned. She really kept pushing me into difficult situations. And I had one particular client that I really dreaded speaking to over the telephone. And she kept saying to me, okay, Sophia's here. Why don't you come pick up the telephone and speak to him? So in the first few times, I was so nervous, but slowly, again, you become more resilient and you learn. And the other piece that I've actually done quite well, I was like a sponge, you know, that age group. I literally absorbed everything, and I was so aware of my environment and learning from people around me. And that's what really, and also I had to question things. You know, questioning yourself is always very important. So I asked the right questions. You know, I was not afraid to do that. It's very important to learn. You know, keep doing that. Don't be afraid to do that. And that mentor, by the way, when I was 21 years old, she actually had to leave to continue her education for 6 months. And she said to me, Sophia, you're going to be heading the team now. I didn't even have time to say yes, no, but if. You know, I had to do it. You know, you had no choice then. So, but I loved every minute of it. And again, I enjoyed it. I worked very hard. You know, I was in the office by 8 o'clock. I left at by 11 o'clock. But you know something, I never felt tired because I was so hungry to learn, and I was enjoying what I was doing. Because it's important with your goals, it's very important to have fun. If you don't have fun along your journey, there's no point of you going towards your goal, because it's like your goal may change at some point of your life. So do have fun.
That's lovely. Yeah, no, to hear how driven you were with those long hours, yeah, not feeling tired. That's impressive. That's a good sign. And Ronel, I know that you've also got a very impressive board of advisors at Finito, and I was wondering how you connected with them in the first place.
Well, Mei-Ying, there's two ways to answer this question. I think the first is that if I look back at my career, recruitment, stockbroking, financial public relations, running a marketing agency, and now Finito, I'm friends with every single one of my former bosses. And that's really important because they've been the people that have helped to bring me on. And my first employer used to send me out to get his egg mayonnaise sandwich every day at lunchtime. And every time I gave it to him, he said, it was great, but could I have a bit more black pepper? And so on my last day of many months of collecting his sandwich from the delicatessens, I asked the man behind the counter to just empty a whole pepper mill into this egg mayonnaise sandwich. Anyway, he ate it, he never flinched. And I tell this story a lot. Relationships are built up with good humor, with understanding, and good guidance. And he and I still laugh about it today. I come to the board that I put together, the advisory board for Finito. Sir Anthony Selden, one of the greatest educationalists in the world and historian of this country's ever seen. John Griffin, my chairman, who is the founder of Addison Lee, who started with one car and sold the business for £350 million. Dame Mary Richardson, who dealt with bursaries and outreach, education outreach at HSBC for many years, and it's sat with me as a governor on City of London School board. I could go on. They are all great people, but what they have is a passion to help others get on in life. And I am able to defer to them and to ask their advice and opinion, and I do so frequently. And I love it when they suggest something that I haven't thought of.
Oh, that's really nice. I guess the similarities between you two is that often you would find your mentors through work and through those kind of communities. And so the next question is quite straight to the point. But have you ever given up on a goal, and how did you come to the realization and then moderate your plans and milestones? Sophia?
I go, okay, never. There's three words that I've had over the years. I mean, some of my goals has taken longer to achieve. Of course, it's taken me years, and I'm still achieving. I've never stopped achieving. And of course, you have to, I said to you, you have to enjoy. Because sometimes you have to go to different directions to get there. Sometimes you don't even know which direction to go to, but you meet the right people that help you to go to that direction. But yeah, I mean, the one thing, for me that made me successful in achieving my goals is actually I'm stubborn. I don't give up. I have perseverance. I persevere, and this is what I keep teaching all my team, because my background is banking for 30 years, so investment banking. And I led teams there, and I worked with very senior executives. So everyone was so demanding. So, but I never perseverance to succeed and determination is very important. So when you're stubborn, I don't mean it's stubborn in a very, in a very negative way where you don't hear what other people are giving us advice. I always listen for advice, and then I use it to support my goals as well. But stubbornness, it really kicks you to keep going and keep going. And I think we discussed the other day the idea of me scuba diving, because I was asthmatic. I didn't think I could scuba dive. I love adventurers. I love the ocean, the marine life. And through determination, I found solutions, by getting on board my personal trainer to help me to get fit, because diving is a serious sport. Sometimes you have a life-threatening situation down there. So again, resilience, that helped me become resilient as well, because I had situations, when I didn't feel comfortable, but I had to pull myself in, and meditation helped me with that as well. When I was on 35 meters having a vertigo and I was getting a panic attack. So I had to really meditate, and use my resilience to really sort the situation out and ascend safely.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a serious situation. And I guess when you're in that kind of position, you need to clear your mind and do it calmly. So no, I'm shocked that you've never given up on a goal. That's nice to know that. But Ronel, have you ever changed where you wanted to go in life? Because I know nowadays a lot of students are feeling like they might have 5 different career plans and they're not sure where to go, and they might start in one direction and then they end up in another. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes. Firstly, I have given up on a goal. I mean, I'm one of those people who never gives up. But when I was a schoolboy, I was a pyromaniac. So I liked burning and setting fire to things, and fireworks was my passion. And I thought when I left school that I was going to go into the firework business. And I got some experience with Reverend Ron Lancaster, who's one of our most acclaimed firework manufacturers. Sadly, the business is no longer around today. But I realized very soon after doing many displays that I was the one who always smelled of sulfur at the end of the display. And I was sweating and hot, and it took hours to set up and hours to put everything away. And so I realized actually I didn't want to be running a fireworks company, and I gave up on that goal. But I still have a great passion for fireworks today. I also thought I was going to go and work as a television presenter at the BBC, and I got rejected alongside 4,000 other people in a letter that arrived saying, dear Ms. Lehmann, we're very sorry. I wrote back to them and said, dear BBC, you have made a mistake, yours sincerely, and I was invited in for interview. So the thing was, I realized that it wasn't actually what I wanted to do either. When somebody comes to you and says, I want to be a trader, and a business mentor might say, do you want to be a trader because you watched the film The Big Short? And he replies, yes. That's not a good enough reason to become a trader. And so what we do is we will actually help you go and visit a trading floor and decide, is that for you or not? I mean, seriously, we always say to graduates, undergraduates, postgraduates, have 3 routes, have 3 career routes. We'll help you find them, and then we'll help you get to where you want to go. And it works.
That's really nice to hear. And yes, I feel like a lot of, not even in finance, but also when it comes to law as well, a lot of students have seen Suits and think, oh yeah, I'm kind of going to become a lawyer as well. So yeah, no, that makes sense. But an important part of creating your dream career is framing risks as opportunities. So do you think there are any opportunities for people as a result of another lockdown potentially? Ronel, would you like to take this one?
Well, yes, I do. I thought I'd jump in there. I really do. I was talking to one of our ministers today in education, and there was a chronic skills shortage just before lockdown. Employers were bemoaning the fact there weren't enough people with the right skills. And do you know that today there are still those short of people? So whatever's happened in the last few months and whatever's going to happen in the next few months, there are lots of opportunities out there. And perhaps we have to look at online, perhaps we have to look at certain things that we never thought we were going to be required of us. But there are plenty of opportunities. And of course, it's sad that we're told that there's going to be 4 million unemployed in the next month or two. Obviously it is, but we have to have some of Sophia's resilience, and it's infectious, and we can all succeed, even though I'm not allowed to eat a bar of chocolate at the end of the day.
Who told you that? Well, I had one of the future questions was going to be about the skill set. So I think maybe it's quite relevant at the moment, but what kind of skill set should all young people be equipping themselves with right now, do you think, if there is a skill shortage?
Well, I think you only have to look at the rise of Amazon, the rise of all the delivery services that have exploded, all the online, the apps. There are lots of things that we can all learn. And we may not all be IT proficient, but it's something that businesses need and thrive on. So I'm not picking on one industry sector. I think you a bit like Marguerite, you should only be limited by your mind, but the opportunities are there.
No,
but also, may I add, from my point of view, soft skills, because obviously you're going to have your hard skills and you have your soft skills. Now, part of the soft skills is learning to become, obviously with resilience, you have adaptability, because things change all the time. There's always a direction. Even when you go into a job, your job changes. When you've been interviewed for a job spec, by the time you get into the job spec has changed. So you need to have that sort of mindset of adaptability. And also empathy, compassion is all about EQ versus IQ right now as well. So empathy is vital as well. And lastly, responsiveness. And Ronel will agree with me on here, because we live in a very highly competitive environment. And especially when you become employable and you go for interviews, you must respond timely.
Yeah,
is that within the...
It is a big point. Sometimes students don't look at their phone, don't look at their email, answer on the go with spelling errors. A prospective employer wants to see, an email that's professionally written, that's sensible, that has a beginning, a middle, and end, isn't all about me. It's about you, the employer, me, the candidate, we together. If you think like that, you'll be taken seriously.
Yeah, I feel like etiquette online is something, when it comes to emailing, that's actually very important, that often students do overlook, of how to say hello or dear, and then how to sign off. And no, I think that's a good point. So talking about milestones within your jobs, how can you ensure happiness in a job where you're only doing it to reach another job?
Now, I'm going to ask a question here, because the questions that students should be asking: what can I do to find the joy in the job?
Framing it differently.
It's framing it differently, because you need to see from a positive aspect. No job is perfect. You're going to go into a job, as I mentioned to you, sometimes the job may adapt yourself. I remember I used to hire people. Sometimes the direction of the business will ask me to change some of the roles, but I will work within my team to find the right person that will be the right fit for that particular job. So if you ask yourself, what can I do to actually find the joy? That means you need to be open-minded. You need to see, again, be open to be aware of what's going on around you, offer to support people. That means you grow your skill set internally. You may have to work an hour later, but do it. It's the only way to grow. You showcase that you actually are dedicated to your role, because there's thousands of people waiting behind to get that position. So you have to prove you are the right person for that role.
No, definitely, I agree. And I feel you're quite right at this moment in time. There's a lot, especially in the finance sector, jobs are very competitive. So even, yeah, it's about framing it to see, actually, you're very lucky and you should be proud of the skills that you've got to get you there. And so just continue to grow and you should get to where you want to be.
You have so much creativity as well. I mean, the one thing I'm very impressed with now that the students right now, you're very creative. So find ways to support the organization, be assertive and go there and say to them, okay, this is how I can help you. Change the role to fit you.
I've never forgotten. We had somebody who came to the office in my last career, and he asked to be interviewed. He literally turned up and asked to be interviewed. And I was in the meeting, I got called out. So I came and said to him, well, didn't you think of making a call, sending in a CV, doing the normal things? He said, well, I came to London for the day. So I said, where did you come from? And he'd come from Edinburgh. So I said, well, I tell you what, as you come from Edinburgh, what time is your train? And he said he's catching the last train at 6:30 or 7:30, whatever, that he bought a ticket. I said, I'll see you at 5. And we actually hired him because he stood out from the crowd and he made his pitch in such a unique way. He beat everybody else. He was great. And I watch him on LinkedIn. He's doing really well. And it's heartwarming. You ask about, work-life balance and what should you do? I honestly can say that working in this role, I don't know anything that is more satisfying. Perhaps an NHS nurse or somebody in a carer, but actually helping young people get on in life, I tell you, is really wonderful.
Because you speak about, both of you speak about helping other people and helping them find jobs and helping them feel more secure in themselves and reaching their new goals. When choosing your career, how did you identify this purpose? And then what's your story behind honoring it? How did you fall into where you are now? Sophia?
It's a very good question, actually. Again, it's because I was really determined to really learn. I'm on a constant path of personal development. I'm still a student, as I call it, of University of Life. And I don't think I'm ever going to really graduate because you're still learning. So my purpose, I actually started thinking about my purpose, I would say early 40s, because I was coming towards the height of my career. I worked for the top investment banks. I was leading teams. I was really working with very senior level clients and senior executives. So I came to that height. I was thinking, okay, what is next for me? But when I look at all the roles that I had and the experiences that I had, by towards late 40s, I start thinking, you know what, that is what I want to do. This is where my strengths are. My strengths are about empowering people, is about inspiring them, energizing them. So this is that's the next step. Now, those days I didn't know anything about being a coach. I had my own coach as well, because it was very important for me to have that support system behind me. And I still have, even though I'm a coach myself, I still have a coach. So, and then by the late 40s, I realized, you know what, I've been banking now for 30 years. I want to take the skill set that I had, the wisdom that I've taken from working with incredible people. This is what I want to do now. I really want to support, again, others to really unlock their fullest potential. Because having worked in a very stressful and high-paced environment, it really, it helps you to see life in a different way. And I've been challenged from day one, and I've been challenging myself as well at the same time as well. So I decided now is the time for me to step away and step into my next career. And I actually left my job completely without having another job, because I wanted to give myself time to study. And that is the risk that I've taken to be where I am today. I've never looked back. Yes, of course, it's challenging, but I know that I'm in the right place now to see me fall in my future now, but also support people. Like me and Ronel, we both have the same passion of really helping others to really reach their goal and challenge them to see their life from a different perspective, because that is what personal coaching does for you. It challenges you.
No, definitely. Ronel, So you were working with banks and things like this, and you had, similar to Sophia, you're working in very high, intense jobs, and then you kind of maybe came away and thought, I'm gonna help students.
Well, I think what framed my own career was that every single client used to ring up and say, can you help my son or daughter?
Okay.
And because they were a client, we felt obliged to. Half of them never said thank you. The other half are in senior positions today and extremely grateful. So really, I decided that it was an experience that I enjoyed most. And so we made a business of it. And I think we're quite unique. There isn't anyone doing what we're doing on the scale that we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like you've both found your skill sets as well, and you realize that helping others it fills you with joy, whereas for some people it might not necessarily do that. And so that's really nice to see that you've used your skills for the good. When Navia asked, what kind of technical and soft skills do recruiters look for? So Sophia, you did mention earlier about resilience and being adaptable, but what makes a CV and a cover letter stand out, and what should we not include in our CV? So Ronel, would you like to start with this one?
Well, I see lots of CVs. They come across my desk, and many of them run to a number of pages. So if you can't say it on one page, don't. So that's the first thing. The second thing is everyone seems to want to put everything down, which leaves the prospective employer with absolutely nothing to ask you. So I actually will advise candidates, and my team advises candidates, to be brief about who they are, what they do, where they're going, and why. And don't start with these personal statements which say I am wonderful, I've got leadership skills, all of these things which frankly they're not helpful, they're not fit for purpose at this point. What an employer wants to be able to see is a good email or a good cover letter, a CV which makes them want to call you in or get on Zoom and speak to you. So if you want to stand out from a crowd, believe you me, you've got to have a CV that matches your LinkedIn as well. There's no point in having LinkedIn which says you've done something and your CV says you've done something else. Yeah. And also on your digital social media, which you all have, Twitter, Facebook, you probably don't have Facebook now, but some people do still, Instagram, if you don't put yourself in a position that you're going to be asked something that you feel uncomfortable about. So if you get asked, Sophia, do you drink alcohol? And Sophia says, no, she doesn't. And they look at Instagram and Sophia's holding a bottle or a glass 14 days out of 28. It might have been better to say, yes, I do drink with moderation, but I'm not going to drink when I'm employed. So standing out from a crowd is important, making sure your digital social media is fit for purpose, and brevity you cannot beat.
Social media, especially I think in our day and age, can help your application but can also hinder it in certain ways. It depends how you use it. So I completely agree that I feel like there should be classes on this sometimes and teaching people maybe you should be more careful with what you put up. No, that's great. Thank you, Ronel. And Sophia, do you have what would you advise someone for a cover letter? For you worked in banking, so yeah. That's very competitive.
Exactly. I used to receive many CVs as well. I mean, it's the same thing like Ronel, really. But again, you've got to be so careful because many people have lost their jobs by putting things on Facebook or Instagram. And like if somebody says, I'm sick today, but then again, they keep texting and they keep on Facebook, many people have been caught out. So you have to be really careful, really very careful. I mean, your life is out there. Everyone knows what time you're leaving in the house, what time you're coming back. So I would say be very, very, very careful how you communicate really about your life.
Now, this is another question that's a little bit different, but what part of work and business do you think will never change? So I feel like the businesses, our world, our economy, everything is changing constantly. But is there one thing that you think will be around for forever, apart from kindness, hopefully?
Humans, I would say humans. I know we've got AI coming in all the time. Everything, even these CVs, the way CVs are filtered, you have AI coming in. So you're not talking to a human being, but there are so many roles out there that AI can't really do, like emotional intelligence, making sure that the employees they have a mental well-being, that they're being looked after with the organization. AI can't do those kind of things. So I would say nothing would change. AI can't take everything away from us.
That's nice to hear. Ronel, do you agree with Sophia that with service jobs and things like HR and looking after employees, they'll be pretty stable? Or?
Well, I think we've got to look at the last few months and frame it. There are many people who've been badly treated by their employer, and there have been many people who've been treated really well. I think that employees are going to have a choice of where they want to work in future. I was talking to one of our world-leading restaurateurs, and he was saying that there have been some restaurants who've treated their suppliers appallingly. Those suppliers do not want to work with those restaurants ever again, and we're talking about restaurant groups. So I think the way everyone has behaved, there's going to be a wake-up call. And I think that's a good thing in a way, because it will sort out those that were fair and equitable and cared, and those who took advantage and don't deserve to be in that role or position. That's why there's so many opportunities for young people now to leapfrog and do things better. I think the one thing, if I may say on a personal note, that won't change is humour. Humour is actually really important, because it's what connects employers, prospective employers, and candidates. And if you know when to use humour in an interview or in a selection process, you can actually show that you have got compassion, sensitivity, capability, and that you're, after all, a human being and someone that they can relate to. And like sport that brings people together, humour is one of those things too. And there's always something funny that happens during an interview, and you should try and exploit it if you can. If I may tell a quick story, I'm full of real life case studies. There is a chief executive of a property company, and his daughter had worked at McDonald's in her gap year, and Rothschilds had interviewed her in the final selection panel. And when she was seated in front of 4 or 5 of the panel, they asked her, at what age did you want to come to the city? And she said, since the age of 5. And the panel looked at each other saying, are you sure you wanted to work in the city since the age of 5? And she said, yes. My father used to have me in the back of the car reading the share prices from the Financial Times out to him while he was driving. And they said, did you find it difficult? And she replied, yes, the Financial Times was twice the size of me. At which point the panel fell about laughing, and she got the job. And she went home to her father, and this is true, and said, I want to thank you for teaching me about the importance of using humour at the right moment.
Amazing.
And he's a very proud dad, and he tells the story better than I do, but I just think it's wonderful. So I don't think we will lose our sense of humour.
No, that's a good point. And I feel like, especially with going into interviews and things like that, it can be quite nerve-wracking and very stressful. And so often an easy way to break the ice is to use that and to kind of make you seem more of a human. And that's a really nice point. So a lot of the time, people and students have quite big goals getting into IBD and all these different areas, and they aim high, yet they spend hours procrastinating or on social media or watching videos. And I just wondered, in your experience, why is the life we choose to live incompatible with our goals? Why do we choose to procrastinate when we want to reach the top all the time?
Well, the big reason is obviously really good that you have big goals. You have to have at least one big goal. And actually, Sir Richard Branson, I think, keeps saying that in your life, you have to choose a goal that really shakes you up, because it's really, it's quite good to have one big goal to achieve. Why we procrastinate? Because we let fear come in. We have fear of failure. We have fear that we're not good enough for the role. There's so many, we give ourselves all these fears. But in order to achieve that big goal, you need to break it down, break into small steps. So as you take a step, accomplish your step, and then look back and pat yourself on the back, say, well done, you finished one goal now. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Therefore, you don't get demotivated. Because if you think big without breaking it down, it's really like it leaves you breathless, and then you start becoming anxious.
Yeah, I think fear is definitely, it's quite a funny thing, because often some people can use it to motivate themselves, yet it paralyzes other people. So it's kind of making sure that you know how to change it. And your book actually speaks about it in one of the texts. And I remember reading it
around that. I said, if you use fear as a positive tool, that means it really pushes you to find creative solutions. So, but if you let fear take over, then you will paralyze yourself. Your mind goes into a state of panic, and then you can't think clearly. So it's just one step at a time.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the ways to manage fear that you speak about is through meditation and all of these different tools that you mentioned earlier. But you also mentioned that coaching is a form of self-care, and I thought that was quite an interesting point. And meditation is a means to process your life events and your emotional responses, and also a way to stay motivated. But I wondered, when you were introduced to meditation, visualization in your career, and how frequently do you use that as a tool?
Every day, meditation. I meditate literally, it can take you seconds sometimes. So if I'm really fretting on a sort of project that I'm working on, again, I will step away for a second and just think about it. Why is this making me fearful? Why am I procrastinating? Because, I procrastinate as well. Because if I'm learning something new, it takes me a little bit of time. But once I'm in it, thinking, what was the problem? Those are the questions I ask myself. Why is it taking me so long? Why do I worry? So, and then you come to that point, but it's like, again, is stepping back, is knowing, is being in the right consciousness to step away from the problem and remove yourself from that environment and then come back into it. It really helps you a lot. When I was in banking, I remember I had so many situations, and I had bankers, calling all the time, clients. What I did, I used to really stop, log off for a minute, go outside the building, take a few deep breaths, walk around Canary Wharf, maybe 2-3 times, relax, come back, and I knew what to do next. And I pull myself back in the position to prioritize.
Yeah, no.
I was wondering. It may. I was actually very, I had stage fright just before we went on live today. It's quite normal. Don't think that confidence just comes from nowhere.
Yeah.
I remember Mei-Ying, you're very scary. I have to be honest about this. But the thing is, I remember I did a pitch for a client, a re-pitch, and it was near the Tower of London. And somebody came out and said, your time has come. And I went in, and there was 24 people around the table because it was a big mutual. And I didn't even get to stand up. And there was a 41-gun salute, which went outside. At the end of which they thought I'd arranged the 41-gun salute. It was obviously for one member of the royal family. And they just went renewed, banged the table, and I left. I never even uttered a word. So things go wrong, sometimes to your advantage. And I remember coming back to the office saying, I won the account. And they said, well, how did it go? I said, well, I didn't say a word, which was the truth. So, before you go on live television, before you're interviewed on radio, before you make a presentation, before you go to meet a prospective employer, before, it's quite normal to feel a bit of anxiety and adrenaline rush. But if you know that that is part of the process, once you're in it, you won't ever be worried again, because you're actually in the spotlight, giving the answers, and you can enjoy it. Then you can relax. But it's perfectly okay to feel worried that minute before.
Yeah. And actually, I've got an example. When I had my foot operation in 2016, and I came back to the office, and I had 10 minutes to get ready to go to a live pitch at one of the investment banks. Literally, I was given 10 minutes. Now, of course, before I went to a little bit of state of panic, thinking, oh my God, but you know what? I stepped back, I closed my eyes in the car and I said to him, you know what, you got it, Sophia. You know what you're talking about. You got it. So when you start talking to yourself positively, you just relax. I went to the meeting. I was with my crutches, and literally I was very relaxed. I was working with another colleague of mine. We presented a brilliant, an RFP, and within next month we got the pitch. So it's just those 5 minutes was vital for me to really meditate and visualize the meeting, visualize my clients. I'm in a relaxed way. I relax myself and done. And that's how you do it. And a lot of sports personalities, by the way, Michael Phelps visualizes his race. That's how all the major sports events, Olympians, that's what they do. They visualize their race. To the point that every stroke they do, they know exactly the second, they know exactly what they're going to finish, they rehearse it all the time, and that's how they achieve their world records.
And I feel like also that adrenaline that you get before when you are nervous is normal, and it also shows that you care, which I think is something to recognize.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, but visualization, because I've read lots of business books and things like that before, but I'd never heard of visualization in a business book before, or meditating. And so I thought that was really nice, because I can totally imagine my wall all revamped with a new visualization board. So I thought that was really nice.
Have fun with it. Exactly, have fun. All CEOs do these fun visualization boards. I have one upstairs. I look at it every now and then, because actually, you know what? When you look at your visualization board, it's just cuttings from newspapers, from magazines, and make it fun. And it keeps you motivated, and also it makes you creative. You're thinking, okay, that's great. This is what I need to achieve now. This is my aim. And it makes it fun. Again, you need to have the fun.
No, definitely. Ronel, have you ever used something like visualization or meditation, or do you have something that helps you combat your fears before coming on to things like live interviews?
Look, I think experience is important, and to have lots of different experiences, and to be able to think about settings and what's happened in the past. Also, watch our politicians, watch our news presenters, watch our other business leaders. They also have a moment where they're thinking, I've got to get ready, I've got to be in the zone, I need to have a clarity of mind, I need to have the points that I might be asked. So whilst I perhaps don't, exercise is very important, fresh air is very important, taking natural breaks, whilst I'm not somebody who meditates yet, but I'm there to be persuaded by Sophia and others, I've used the period of lockdown to increase my productivity. I've worked harder. I've used the time to have greater outputs in lots of different areas to help the business to succeed and to grow, and to dedicate myself, my time, my business mentors to those students and candidates who need us. So I think positive mental attitude, health and well-being, and the odd chocolate bar.
Yeah, I also, because in Sophia's book she mentions self-efficacy, which I think kind of links into that, believing that you can do it. Because we were studying in class that it was something like, once you believe you can do it, you're already 30% of the way there, because you're in the right mindset. And I know, Ronel, you also wanted to be grilled and asked certain questions. So if someone wanted to become the Prime Minister, what would you say should be their first step?
Well, I think that's a great thing to aspire to, although I'm sure Boris Johnson, if he was on the call, would tell you that he didn't quite expect this year to go as it has. And he's not only caught coronavirus, recovered, he's become a father again, and he's taking us dealing with Brexit. I mean, what a workload for anybody. But seriously, if you want to get into politics, and we have lots of young students who do, the first thing is you can work for a member of parliament. You can be an assistant, a researcher. You can work for a think tank. You can actually work in public affairs, which represents companies that have interests about legislation and parliament. And there's opportunities in the civil service. You'll all know about fast track. So there are many routes to that area. Obviously, reading the papers, reading the news, watching politics, having viewpoints, expressing your viewpoints. I mean, universities are hotbeds of opinion and ideas for different ways of doing things. And we're always very critical of our legislature, our government, our politicians, our ministers. But if you have that passion, there are plenty of ways to get there. You know, will you become prime minister? Well, politics is not like business. You've got a lot of dinners to eat. You've got a lot of people to see. You've got to fight for your seat, and you've got to keep it. And have a constituency, and then be thought of by your fellow members of parliament as worthy of leadership. So I think you can set yourself on the path, but it's going to take a little bit of time. But why not? Lots of people pursue that.
Yeah, no, I'd never thought about being an assistant, or how you would apply for that kind of role. How would you go about something like that?
Well, I mean, we had a candidate who's second year at the University of Exeter. She's studying politics. She got 3 work experience opportunities this summer. We helped her to get. One was working for a public relations firm that deals with public affairs. Another was working on a campaign because there's a mayoralty election next year. So there's lots of work going on now. So there are many opportunities. And you know, if you need help and this is what you want to do, and you want to fight a seat and become a member of parliament, why not? I encourage you.
No, definitely. I think that was really, really helpful. Now, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that is all the time that we have for our questions. And I know that Ronel mentioned that you can reach out to Finito, and we will also have Sophia's information linked in the description box below. So make sure that if you have any more questions, you can comment them, and I know that you guys can come back and reply, but also feel free to reach out to them on LinkedIn. But if we didn't have time to answer your questions, then please do send them in. But I'd also just like to close this keynote with a huge thank you to our panelists who have kindly given up their time today to share their wisdom and experience with us. So I hope you found this webinar helpful. And if you've got any questions for us as King's Business Club, feel free to message us on our Instagram account at King's Business Club, and feel free to share this webinar with your networks. As we've heard, networks are very important, making sure that you're supporting people and then you get your support back. But yes, so once again, a huge thank you to our panelists for joining today, and thank you so much for listening.
Great.
Goodbye. Bye.